Hello everyone, hopefully you're doing pretty well today. My name is Deborah and welcome to my channel, Crafty Chalk and Creations. I am an independent designer of Chalk Couture and today I'm going to make a card using their permanent ink. I will show you how to heat set it so that way it will be permanent on your card. I have already pre-waxed my card with the surface wax, so you'll need some surface wax, and that is to prevent my transfer from sticking to the paper and to the back of and basically ruining my transfer. Believe me, been there, done that, learned from my mistake. Now, I did make a card in my Facebook group. I'll post a link down below if you'd like to join that. And I had mixed two colors to make this card. And I'm going to be making a card today using the transfer that I used here. This is called Appreciate It Transfer. As you can see, just did sections. So I'll be using the thank you portion of this card to make this card. And I will be also using their transfer. This is called Peaceful Garden. And I will be using the pansies on my card. Now I'm going to be using gold ink. This is the jar. They now offer ink in packets, but only select colors. I think there's 9 colors. I'll post a link down below if you'd like to look at that. But the editable shopping cart link that I will be posting, I will put in the packets and the jar, the packet color and the jar. So that way if you want to just get the ink to have more projects to do, or you got a bunch of cards you want to make, you can do that. Or if you just want to make 1 or 2 cards, then the packet should be just fine. So I've already scored my transfer here. I'm going to be using the pansy, so I'm going to set this aside right now. Now I did pre-test this. Usually I don't do pre-do things, but I did pre-test because I want to color in the pansies. And so I did a pre-test where I used the gold ink, and this is the one that I had done in the group where I mixed a couple of colors because I wanted to see if I could use my brush ink markers to go with these, and it worked out fine. So paste, this is a 65-pound cardstock. Paste doesn't, it absorbs the paste too much. So if you're going to use a 65-pound cardstock, I would suggest that you use the ink. But you could use paste, just make sure it's a heavier cardstock and test before you make your card, because what happens is, excuse me, if the card is a little too porous and it's not as thick, it can soak some of the moisture out of your paste, and what will happen is some of the paper will come up off the back of your transfer where the silk screening is. So if it's 65-pound, do ink. I have not had any issues with ink, so that's why I decided I wanted to test, and I also wanted to see if I would be able to color in after I heat set. Now you can use color pencils if you'd like to do that too. Watercolor, I don't know. I don't have any watercolor paper, so you could test that with watercolor paper. Maybe that will be something I could do in the future to see how that would work with watercolors and have the ink. I don't know. I'll have to consider that. But I'm going to set that aside also. So I just wanted to give you that information. So anything that is from Chalk Couture, I will have an editable shopping cart link posted down below as long as it is in stock. That way you can go ahead and get it. And like I said, it's editable. You could use different colors if you want. Like I said, in their ink, I think it's 9 colors they have. I know they have black, white, red, candy apple red, metal green, bumblebee yellow. Gold is the only metallic one that they have. Cadet blue they have. And I think couture teal and couture coral. I think those are the colors. They have them listed on there. So you can get them in the packets just like you can the paste now in those colors. I think that is awesome. So if you're wanting to do like a small project like this, you can. Now, this card, I went ahead and cut. It's, I think they call it an A7. I don't follow any of that, to be honest with you. I bought envelopes thinking they came with the cards, and they didn't. I had done a video, and I'll post a link to that, where I showed how with a previous card that I had, I just pretty much measured and I cut it down to size from an 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock. Like I said, this is 65-pound. If you're going to do paste, do something much heavier. Exactly what pound strength, I don't know. But anything, I would say, heavier than 65 if you want to do paste. But I'm going to do the ink. Because if you're going to be mailing this and it has a chance of getting wet, you might not want your ink, your paste getting wet. So use the ink. And some people like to collect cards. Now, if you're using those water-based markers, then and if they get wet, then obviously that's going to run. But I'm not sure how watercolors would work. You would have to try that. Or maybe I will save that for another project another day. But I am fuzzing. And for any of you that are new to watching my channel, and you're not familiar with what fuzzing is, these are sticky. They're reusable. And even though I have pre-waxed my card, I need to take some of the stickiness off because it still could stick very well. I mean, it isn't completely like waxed. I mean, it's just I put a coating on there, a light coating. And you don't want your transfer to stick to your paper or your cardstock because it'll stick to the back and you won't be able to use your transfer. It will ruin it. All right, I think that is fuzzed enough. So I'm going to set this aside for right now because I got to use my thank you portion. I'm not going to do anything on the envelope, but you could do some embellishment on the flap if you would like to. I usually do that, but my pansies are pretty large and I just don't want to do it today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to position this because I have to remember where my thank you portion is going to be, and I would like it somewhere like down around here. So I'm going to offset this. I'm not going to use it straight like this. But this size card is a 5 by 6.5. So I'm just and I don't care if I have all my flour in there or not. I just want to make room for my thank you card. Because that's what I'm making a thank you card. All right. I'm going to kind of eyeball that. Like I said, you can measure. See, it's a little too close. I need to move this over some. That. I don't care if I have all the flour or not. It's kind of the illusion, a little abstract. All right, I think that might be okay. Because I want some kind of a gap. There we go. I think that will be fine. So I'm just pressing this down with my finger. Try to make sure I don't have any little air bubbles or little things stuck to, like little fuzzies or anything stuck underneath there. The best that I can. Because I'm offset, this is kind of helping hold down my card too. All right. I think that will work. I'm just going to use this right now to position. I don't know, I might be able to put them both down at the same time. I'm going to try it. I was going to do them separately. Like do this one and let that dry, and then I was going to do the thank you. But let me try this. I know I'm going to have to lift up the edges on one, but I mean, at least for placement. All right, it might have to go up a little bit higher than I want it to, but I think that will be fine. Okay. All right, that will work. All right, yeah, you know what? I'm going to leave it. I'm going to do it separate. It's too much for me to overlap, and I need to make sure that my ink is dry. If I said paste, my apologies. I'm used to working with paste, not so much the ink, so I seem to misspeak at times. All right, so this is the ink. This is the gold. I'm doing this in the gold. Here's my mini squeegee. You do it the same way as you do the paste when you apply it. Bevel edge. And I'm just going to, this is water soluble. You can wash it just like you do the paste. It's just when it is heat set, what I mean by heat set, heat is applied to it. Now this, I will be using an iron to heat set it. And I'll demonstrate that. If you're putting this like on ceramic or anything like that, which I have not done, you would heat set it in the oven. But I have not done a project like that, so I cannot speak from experience on that one. I'm just trying to make sure I have good coverage, just like I do with the paste. And I'm going all the way to the edge. So yes, I've got some going on my tabletop. If you have a tabletop or something like that you want to protect, then you can put a Sylvie mat or something, a different surface underneath there to help protect it. I'm just going through and I'm scraping off the excess as much as possible. I'm wiping it back into my jar of ink. Now I'm going to peel this. Oh, I like this. Oh, I love that. Ooh, I love that. All right. Now I have an extra towel. You can't, I don't think, oh, there you can. You can see it now. I've got sticky side down because as soon as you're done with your transfer, you should take it over to the sink to clean it. But I'm not going to do that while I'm doing this video. So I'm going to spritz it down with some water for right now because I don't want that ink drying in my silk screen. All right, now I'm going to take my little drying tool here. Oh, I forgot to turn on my iron. You got to make sure your iron is on and it is hot. I'm using this little like travel iron. That's what I'm using. You also need some parchment paper to put over, and you will also need like a heat resistant, because I'm doing mine straight on the table, so this is one of those baker mats that you can put in the oven, so there is some heat resistance. But if you don't have one of these, make sure you put a towel or something underneath to protect your surface, you know, because you are applying heat. Exercise caution. All right, so I'm going to use my drying tool. Use a little hair dryer or anything like that because I got to make sure this is dry before I place my other transfer on here. Now you can leave this as is and do a little handwritten saying right there. You can do that. Totally up to you, but I want to use the word thank you from that Appreciate It card. Sometimes my penmanship is not the best. If you have one of those, you do that calligraphy and that beautiful script writing, or just even if you want to do print, you just have that you know, those writing videos. I've watched some of those, and believe me, I've tried, I've practiced, I even bought a book. It takes a lot of practice, but if you are skilled and you have that talent, you can just handwrite it. I don't trust mine right now, so so I'm going to use their saying off the Appreciate It transfer, that section for their thank you card. But I need to make sure that my ink is dry before I place it on, because if it's wet, then it can get on the back of my other transfer and it's going to smear my design. So I'm just trying to make sure that this is good and dry. All right, I'm going to just kind of stick my finger on here. Now it's going to feel different than the paste if you've ever worked with Chalk Couture. It has, rubbery feel's not the word I want to use, but it has a little, it's got a little bit of tack to it, but it doesn't really come off on your hands. The ink does take longer to dry than the paste does. All right, now I'm going to place this on here. Now I'm not going to press the whole transfer down, I just need the thank you portion. All right. My card keeps moving on me. If that should happen, just tack it down with some tape. And I think that's what I'm going to do here. Oh no, I got ink on the back of my card. I forgot to wipe it off because I went off the edge. Well, it's there now. That's okay. And to show it's handmade with love. All right, there we go. All right, so I'm just gonna press that down right there. Let's see if I can enlarge this a little bit for you. All right, I'm gonna have to place that. There we go. I'm going to go back into my ink. Now you could do any other colors. Like I said, they've got, I think it's 9 colors in the packets. But you can get the jars. They have other colors in the jars of paste that you can use. Now they don't have as much of a selection and a variety of colors, let me put it that way, as they do with the paste. But they have quite a bit, and you can always mix colors. I'm going to pull that up. I like how that looks. I love it. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and dry this. Now you can leave this, like I said, as is. I'm going to color mine in with some markers. Well, they're like water ink pens I got from Arteza. So I'm going to color those in. Color in the pansies. I'm going to do the purple and the yellow. A little bit touches of green here and there. And you use watercolor pencils if you like to. Like I said, I don't know about with the watercolors and watercolor paper. I have not done that. But yeah, I have to make sure that this is good and dry. And there's wax on this card, but because I'm heat, you know, this has got heat to it, it's kind of melted it into the paper. But it's such a fine coat, you can't really tell. I just need to make sure that this is good and dry. All right, I think it will be okay. That's definitely dry. Now I'm going to a little bit more. Err on the side of caution. All right. And my little iron is heated. I have to peel this up very carefully. All right, now I'm going to lay down my baker's mat. This one I use for projects. So I'm going to lay it down on my baker's mat. If you don't have one of these, use a towel to protect your surface, okay? Get a piece of parchment paper. Lay it on top. This does not feel very hot. It says it's to temp. All right. And then what you do is you take your iron and you go over it slowly. And then on occasion, you just kind of hold it there for a few seconds and move on to the other area. It takes about 2 or 3 minutes to make sure it's good and heat set. You just hold it for a few minutes. I'm just kind of holding down. I've got gold ink underneath my fingernails. I'm just trying to hold down the paper, but exercise caution and be careful. There is a little bit more work when you're using the ink, you know, oh, shouldn't say work. There's a few more steps. It's not like really work. There's just a few more steps. But you will be very pleased with the results. Like I said, if you don't want to use the ink, you could use paste. Just make sure you are not using 65-pound cardstock. Use something heavier. What weight, I don't know, but it's got to be heavier than that. Because it will just absorb, even if you wax your surface, it will just absorb the moisture out of the paste and it will dry too soon. Now, if you want to be quick about it and do the peel and lift method, you can try that. But I want it to be able to color these in, and I decided to use ink. And I wanted to mix some colors, so I did a video of that other card, that other thank you card, in my group. I will have a link where you can join there. It's not for other designers. If you're a designer, do not join. You will be removed. I will find out. You will be removed. It's per Chalk Couture rules. But if you're a designer, Chalk Couture does have a designer group on Facebook. You're welcome to join that one. Okay. All right. Set this aside. Now I'm just going to peel that up. Let it cool down a bit. I'm going to have to figure out something to put there. Well, my transfers are, my transfers need to be cleaned, so I might put a little pansy, or I might do a little flower thing on the back. I'll probably do another pansy over here to hide that. So, and that is pretty much it. Yeah, and then once it's dry, I mean, you've heat set it. I don't know how to explain it. It's kind of like a rubbery feel, but not really. And it's really nice. And there you go. You can leave it just like that as is, or you can color it in, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go off camera and I will color it. And then I will post a finished product at the end of this video. All right. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this gave you an idea of something you can use that Peaceful Garden transfer with. You can use the Appreciate It transfer. Make yourself a thank you card for somebody, and how to use the ink, and to let you know that they now have some colors in the packets, which is awesome if you're just wanting to do a couple of cards or some small projects. Thank you so much for watching, and you have a beautiful day.